Okay, hello everybody. Today's date is January 24th, 2026. If any incident occurs or anybody reports me as a direct result of them claiming they either heard me, saw me, or saw any of my property on this property on any and all dates, including while I'm making this video, it's completely staged. Now, I'm totally aware that that sounds peculiar because you don't know what's going on yet. By the way, I'm going to make a verbal notation based on something that I'm seeing now and that I've seen before. You should also know that when I go like this, okay, from the center of the lip forward, this part of the lip is a lot fattier. Oh, absolutely. Oh, and you wouldn't believe what I just felt right here in this lip. Now, I'm totally aware this is looking and sounding peculiar. I'm completely aware I look like total hell, and I want to show you something. First of all, pay attention to this thing that's on the nose. Okay? Second of all, look at the surrounding eye area on both eyes and this area up in here, and any white marks that you see going down up in here, and notate the white mark you see going across the nose. Now watch this. You're not seeing it in as good as you're not going to be able to see it in the true nature of it because it's massively cloudy out right now. So not the right amount of sun is on my face that would allow you to really see it. You can clearly see this from here to here. You can clearly see that. You can clearly see the white mark going down here. Okay, but you're not able to see, okay, the extreme whiteness in the way that you would normally see in a proper white setting. Now, my fellow American citizens, this particular video is gonna have a very unique subject matter disclosed in it. So you gotta pay very, very, very close attention to every single thing that I state. Follow all my instructions. Follow all my instructions down to a T, and research all descriptions. The brain will organize the data and synthesize it together. And I want you to know that the reason why I look like hell is because every single second of every single minute of every single hour of every single day, my ears and more than likely the neurological functions, certain neurological functions of the brain are literally being forced to endure ultrasound, infrasound, and radio telemetry. Now, again, remember, anything that I don't expand on in this video, and trust me, every identified statement about what I endure and the technologies that are widely reported to be used on targeted individuals, which is a term that describes gang stalking victims, if they were expanded upon, you would thoroughly understand it, because they can easily be explained in layman's terms. I also want you to pay attention to this area of the eyebrow, and this area of the eyebrow when I do this. And when you see some cooperating evidence, your jaw's gonna absolutely drop. Alright, now hold on. Now, I got extremely brutalized yesterday for 11 straight hours. 11 straight hours. I got extremely brutalized yesterday. Hold on. Why are you seeing just, like when my head goes this way, why does the entire area up in here turn white? Now, I don't know what's causing that, but that's been noticed on massive dates when I've made videos at over at least 130 of the 230 different hiking areas I've been forced to move to and from, and some even back to, in the past 4.5, 5 years, as a direct result of trying to escape specific targeting connected to gang stalking crimes, and that moving was influenced, and it was able to be achieved through influencing based on the current ignorances about how they were achieving it. Okay, so just stay tuned to this account. Your mind is going to be blown. Now, hold on a second. Now, in a few minutes, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn or to boast in any way, shape, or form, but consider this, because I think it's important for it to be said. And always pay attention to this area up in here. And around my eyes, down up in here, down up in here, down up in here, to over here, to the nose, and any other white. It's dead muscle. as a result of the ultrasound, the infrasound, and the radiation dumps through radio telemetry that is occurring from, but not limited to, the top of the head, the forehead, the ears, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, the jaws. You would not believe what's happening to me. You literally would not believe what's happening to me. You stay with this account long enough, baby cakes and munchkin butts, you will understand completely. Completely ignore how I look. The way I look right now, the way you see me, including missing teeth, is a direct result of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of torture episodes that have been affected on the brain, the face, and much more. Okay? Because I take care of myself. I don't do drugs at all, except allergy medicine. I don't drink. I drink some occasional cough syrup when my lungs and my throat get congested, affected by them. You stay with this account, sweethearts, and your mind is going to be blown. It is now time to segue into the subject matter. And when you hear what I got to say, this will probably turn into being either a 2 or 3-part video series. And does this video series, can it then be incorporated at least 2? And by the way, right now, follow my finger. Okay? Electronic stings occurring on that part of the tongue, and it's not the only part of the tongue that I'm enduring. Anyone at any time can go to Google and research at Google meticulously, and then save that research for cross-referencing purposes when you stay with the account and see other exposures. Go to Google and type in at Google the tongue-driven inductive implant system. Baby cakes and munchkin butts, welcome to truth. Listen to me carefully. Now, what am I gonna do is I'm gonna lay down some foundational information. By the way, you can also go to Google and type in at Google the following. Go to Google and type in at Google. Sorry if I keep repeating myself. Go to Google and type in at Google nasal deviated septum implant. Okay. Now, listen to me. What I'm going to do is lay out some foundational information so you can see how important that is as I continue to talk. Because as I continue to talk, the follow-up statements and details of them are going to help you see why that foundational information is so important. You'll flat out see it. Okay? So here we go. Now, what I'm going to do is explain to you some metaphorical examples. Okay? So, 2 examples. First, let's say you got an abusive, a victim of extreme domestic violence. And in this case, we'll say it's a woman who's the victim. Okay? Now, with that being said, and this can happen obviously to a man, and obviously it can happen to abused children as well. If you're a human being, it even happens to animals. So, let's say though you got an abused woman who has been routinely, viciously abused by her male partner. And there are many contributing factors why she's still with him. He's controlling her ability to work. He took the car keys away from her. He took the credit cards away from her. He destroyed her friendships with people. Okay, she comes from an estranged family, or he has assisted in destroying and putting strain on those family relationships. Trust me when I say there's a lot of wild animals out there that are abusing their partners. In this case, it'll be a woman victim, okay, who engage in specific detailed tradecraft, which means intentionally perpetrated actions that they know will affect a specific desired outcome, putting strain on relationships so the abuse victim eventually has no one to turn to. And you better believe this crime does that too. Now, so we got an abused woman who's abused viciously every day, even possibly raped by this asshole. Okay, I'm sorry about the language. Possibly even raped on 1 or more dates through this abusive partners. Every human being on this planet has to sleep, okay, and they have to eat, okay? Absolutely. If she don't even have bus fare to get to a domestic violence shelter, okay, if she's went to a domestic violence shelter, especially if she's a victim of gang stalking, she'll be gang stalked to it and then literally influenced to leave. She ends up, and then she can be influenced to go back to him. Again, remember, anything I don't expand on, you'll understand over time. Completely. That's a guarantee. Okay? And you better believe domestic violence is occurring through, but not limited to, intimate infiltration connected to gang stalking. So, this woman Okay, when has got extreme post-traumatic stress, like all violence victims have, but she's got it's called complex post-traumatic stress. So what occurs within the neurological functions, thinking patterns, brain states, and emotional patterns, okay, which are actually brain neural pathways, because you got different features and functions of the brain in different regions of the brain. These neural networks have reached into based on her experiences. So in other words, if you get abused, you have a thought response from it. A brainwave gets created. You then have a visual memory of that abuse episode. Episodic visual memory gets created. These are the brainwave is stretching into different brain regions responsible for these types of brain features and functions. So now it becomes a neural network. So the brain, just hear me out, don't walk away, because I know this sounds peculiar, so just hear me out, okay? So what happens is that through each experience, a brainwave is created. And that brainwave will then start grouping over into different regions and features of the brain that are responsible for different brain communications, language, emotions, brain states, or brains being driven into as a result of feeling powerless, despair, victimization, hopelessness. Okay, those are brain states and emotions that go with them. Anger, hate, fear. Okay, the sense of being defeated. Okay. Visual memories of everything she's seen of him beating her, raping her, approaching her in a hostile way, then she gets beat. Okay? Now, when the brain is going through these experiences, you got thought reactions, emotional reactions, induced brain states, and visual memory references are created. The visual memories of seeing her body bruised up, her face, teeth missing, bruises over different parts of her body. Okay? Absolutely. While when every episode of these types of abusive events took place at, her body was also reacting to it. Okay? You are being introduced to complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And trust me when I say the demented, vile filth that hosts this crime know all about it. They intentionally create it in victims. Make no mistake about it. Okay, they intention, because you got to remember, some of the wild whores that are on the hierarchy of the people that host this crime, who are they? Neuropsychiatrists, neuroforensics, neuropathologists, psychologists, absolutely trauma experts. The huge aspect of this crime is biomedical and mental health field professionals, forensic psychiatrists, psychologists, trauma specialists who treat people who are victims of abuse, soldiers who've been to war and have experienced trauma. These are the type of doctors that aided and abetting in creating the foundational layers of this crime, so they knew what to then affect upon the victim through the different wild whores that they use for traumas, including staged rapes and much more, intimate infiltration. They knew it all, because programming the mental substrate is one of the biggest things they're after. Programming the mental substrate is programming the brain's features and functions to thought patterns, induced emotions, and induced brain states. So the brain waves can be entrained. They then stretch into neural networks, because there's a part of the brain called the association cortex. And so when you got a person who's associated to all these abusive episodes, every function and feature of the brain that got excited that was related to the abuse, the visual memories, the brain states induced, the emotions induced, the thinking patterns reduced, these are different regions of the brain that the brain wave goes into. Therefore, you're then creating neural networks. Therefore, you're then programming the neural substrate. Okay? If you go to Google and you take a look at, when you go to Google and you type in at Google, what does a series parallel electronic circuit look like? What does a combination circuit look like? In electronics, you can start to get, and when you go to Google and type in, okay, what does the EEG brainwave look like? You take that pattern, and then you branch it out into 6 different directions, and that's the neural networks that they're creating to the related relationship of the abuser to her, and all related events and all induced brain states, emotions, thought patterns, and memories created. And so then there's the neural network stretching out into different regions of the brain, because different regions of the brain are connected to brain states, emotions, emotional cluster frequencies, brain states, thinking patterns, visual memories, and the following. Consider this. Now there's your first example. Here's the second. And let me expand on the first example first. Here's the second. What do you think this woman is going through when she, let's say she's allowed to go to the grocery store, and then she comes back from the grocery store and she's approaching that house or that apartment door. She knows when she approaches that scenery, she knows this is a door that is connected to extreme brutal assault. So therefore she knows, the brain is visually seeing that she's getting ready to enter an environment that she's experienced hundreds of assault dates on. Assaults at on different dates. Okay? So that environment is now visually attached to all the biological responses the body went through when she endured each assault in that environment. Consider this. So here's the second example, and you can take those statements of the second example and integrate it back to the information I just shared. Let's say you got an old woman who's living in a bad neighborhood, and she can't get out of it for financial reasons. She has no family to return to, no friends, no community support, so she's stuck in this bad neighborhood. And then her neighbor tells her there's been a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood, okay, including violent break-ins. So her neighbor is saying to her, just keep an eye out, okay? All right, so then she goes to bed that night after hearing this by her neighbor. She goes to bed that night and she starts hearing sounds coming from her back door, right? So as soon as she hears those sounds, the first example of the abused woman was sight, okay, and everything else I said. The second example has to do with sound. So the visual stimuli of seeing the apartment as she's reapproaching it stimulates the visual memories of all the past abuses. And then what that does is that starts exciting the biological responses. Fast-paced breathing, hypertension in the stomach area. Because your body will signal the brain that you're in an environment that's related to past danger and current danger, because you're re-entering the same environment and you know what to expect. Okay, that's where the visual memories come back into play at, and all their associated brain features, they also get stimulated. Fear, anxiety, hypervigilance about what you're going to experience when you walk through that apartment door, right? So you got this old woman. She hears these stories about break-ins and violent break-ins in her neighborhood. She knows she's all alone. She knows she's elderly. She knows she's small. So she goes to bed at night, and then all the lights are off. The interior of her home is quiet. And then she hears this sound of somebody like trying to break in her back door. So immediately as she hears that, her brain recalls this information that her neighbor shared with her. So she starts to get all anxietied out. Fear is being processed in her brain. Her stomach starts to contract. Her breathing starts to become extremely fast-paced. Okay? And then her limb movements kick into action. I gotta get up and get on the phone and call 911 or call my neighbor. Now, that audio stimuli she heard from her back door being kicked, like somebody's trying to kick it in, that then becomes an auditorial memory reference, including to pitch dark because her bedroom's black. Okay, so she's seeing that visually. And then the hypertension in the stomach, the fast-paced breathing, that then the brain, her ears are hearing it. It immediately equates it to danger, and that starts the biological reactions in the stomach. Okay, in the stomach, the fast-paced breathing, the stomach contractions. Okay. And then the fear, the emotions in the brain, that creates a brainwave. And so the biological responses in the stomach, okay, literally, the biological responses in the stomach, the fast-paced breathing through the diaphragm, okay, that's working together with the lungs concerning breathing. Adrenaline and cortisone start to get released from the kidneys. that keep that cycle going, the fast-paced breathing, okay? Absolutely, the cortisol release, okay? The extreme hypervigilant and hyper-alertness, okay? Cognitively concern the brain to focus on the sound, because she's anticipating, okay, I gotta hear if the door's being actually knocked in, okay? So all of these biological responses and the emotional responses of fear, the brain state of fear, it's all creating a brainwave. And it's all being connected together. Okay? Absolutely, because the brain heard it through the ears, and it excited these biological responses in the stomach and the fast-paced breathing. And since danger was connected to it, that released the adrenaline and the cortisone in the kidneys, which keeps the fast-paced breathing going and the contractions in the stomach. Because when you're breathing really fast, it's like a panic attack. When you're breathing really fast, your stomach contracts real fast. Okay? So this becomes a brain wave to different neural networks, to biological responses. The abused woman is going through the same thing. She sees the apartment as she's approaching it, the fast-paced breathing, the adrenaline starts being secreted from the kidneys. Okay? Absolutely. The hypervigilance, the hyper-alertness. Okay? The brain states of fear, the emotions of fear. Okay? Depression, brain states of situational depression. Hormones get excited. Now, why did I bring all this up? My fellow American citizens, this is literally the sick shit that these wild horrors have been doing to me non-stop since 2003 in 4 states. Michigan, from 2003 to 2011. San Diego, 2006. Then I went back to Michigan. Connecticut in 2011. Then I came back to San Diego. Upper State, California in 2007. And it's been revolved around massive issues, propping up auditorial and visual stimuli, okay, in order to induce fear about being arrested for camping, about torture, directed energy weapons, radio telemetry interface with implants. After what do you hear what the rest of what I gotta say, and what do you see also what's going to be disclosed in video 2 and maybe another video, which will then be video 3 of this 3-part video series. When you go to Google and type in at Google a diaphragm pacemaker, and in video 3 I'm going to show you some visual information concerning certain type of implants that can be put in the stomach. I had an audio file that was on a microcard that openly showed it being stated by world-renowned scientist Dr. Hildegard Stanger, openly stating implants put in the kidneys to excite adrenaline secretions. You just would not believe what's going on. So keep in mind, you being a single woman, 70% of all victims are women, and at least 60% of them are single, including single mothers. So you know what that's all about. You better fucking believe it. So just bear with me, and I apologize for the language. Let me set my phone down. Okay. Now, remember, let me give you another fast example here. Keep this in mind. Let me catch my breath though. Okay, keep this in mind. If a organized crime doctor, okay, the crime itself has many ways that they can get you into a hospital setting for illegal, criminal, non-consensual surgeries of different types. Oh, absolutely. Just wait till you see the evidence, folks. Your jaw is going to drop. You'll literally need a bulldozer to pick it back up. You will be furious if you're a decent person. When you hear the statements I've already made, the other statements that will be made in this video, video 2, and then the evidence that will be exposed in either video 2 or 3, and make sure you pay attention to this video series on all dates for eventual attachments that will be linked in this video series. Your jaw will friggin' drop. Look at my face. Do you think the way I look is because I didn't take care of myself? No. The way I look, including teeth loss, is a direct result of what these filthy whores have done to me and are continuing to do to me on a non-stop daily basis. Non-stop. So listen to this. When you go to Google and you research at Google, there's many different reasons why people would normally, why a doctor, an uncorrupt doctor, would say to a patient, it's a good idea. You're a great candidate for a diaphragm pacemaker. Look at this. Yeah. Look at this. Where do you see the islands implants that are in my eyes? Don't walk away. Look at this. Okay. Now, let me tell you something. When you go to Google and you type in at Google, what is a diaphragm pacemaker? It helps to assist in the control of breathing for different medical conditions. The vast majority of all non-consensually implanted gang stalking victims are openly stating, whether they can prove they're there yet or not, are openly stating that. I just saw a tweet about it this morning, where a woman said they're targeting her pelvic area and other areas as a result of wideband. What is wideband? Wideband is an acronym for Wireless Body Area of Networked Integrated Implants. Different types. Which can be interfaced with as separate sets, but these separate sets can be interfaced simultaneously with other separate sets, and some of them, and then if you got one or more sets, each implant to each set can be simultaneously activated, or at least activated back to back. It all depends on how they want it. The sick, filthy, mass murdering whores. It all depends on how they want to interface with you at any given time and the amount of time that they do it. Yeah. I used to be a halfway decent looking human being, and look at the way I look now. And every single last bit of this is completely protected. What do you hear some information about that? Oh, absolutely. So just ignore how I look. There's beauty in the soul of truth. Know that always. Okay. So now here's another thing. What did I illustrate in the first two examples? Okay. I illustrated programming the mental substrate, what that's all about. Brain waves that then get created into brain neural networks. Okay. I already detailed that, at least enough so you can have a preliminary concept about it. Okay. But what did I also lead into towards the tail end of the first example? The visual eye seeing the house, and then the house is already associated to extreme abuse and trauma episodes, the environment, the interior of the house and the exterior of the house. When you approach the house, you know you're entering a house that you're visually seeing that has been responsible for horrific abuses. Okay? So that visual, seeing that visual house stimulates the hypervigilance, the hyperbreathing, okay, the fast-paced pace breathing, the excretions of the adrenaline from the kidneys, okay, the hypervigilance, the hyper-alertness, certain thought patterns like I better be careful how I act, I better be careful about what I say, okay, I better make sure I'm nice and sweet to him, okay, I better be quiet, okay, literally. But the body is already reacting to it. And the brain is receiving the signals from the body. Because there's an area of the brain called the limbic system. And the limbic system is one of the most primitive features of your brain. It's connected to the amygdala. And the amygdala is connected to survival, and so is the limbic system. And the amygdala is directly connected to features and functions of the kidney concerning adrenaline secretion and cortisone release. Adrenaline is a fight or flight, is related to fight or flight instinct. A woman can't fight up against a 190 pound, 220 pound man that's abusing her. She already knows this, okay? So you can't fight, and you can't run because you have nowhere to go to. So then you're like stuck in a freeze position. You're stuck in a freeze position in that relationship. So then the body and brain is just constantly reacting to it. Because consider this. It's let me just think of something here real fast. The song remains the same because you're stuck in the phrase. If the same exact phrase is being repeated, the phrase being the same exact thought pattern, then the song remains the same. Your brain and body is experiencing the same melody that is stored in the body that's related to the complex post-traumatic stress. The biological responses, the thinking responses, the brain states, the emotions, the fears, the concerns, the hypervigilant, it's all connected to the brainwave that he intentionally created and intentionally reinforced. and that wears down the body, it wears down the brain, it wears down the immune system, it wears down the health. What do you think is happening to gang stalking torture victims? And what do you hear about the different anchors that this crime intentionally creates, so that when any stimuli that's created to that anchor is reintroduced, these biological responses, okay, get intentionally reinduced, which is why the anchor is being represented. Visual things you're forced to see, auditory things you're forced to hear, and much, 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 much more. These wild, vicious horrors, they are the most criminally insane, vicious animals that have ever walked this planet, and who are the main reported hosts of this crime. Listen to me carefully. Elements within the United States military, the DOD, the DIA, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the DHS, state, county, and local police, state, county, local governments, and the medical industry and the mental health industry. Not to mention all their tentacle colluding partners, universities, libraries, grocery stores, banks, post offices, security guards of business plazas, okay, you just went managers of businesses, employees of businesses. Welcome to, in part, the gang of gang stalking, because they use these places and individuals within them to repeat the stimuli, to reinforce the programming of the mental substrate. And the programming of the mental substrate is directly connected to the programming of the induced, continued, excited biological responses that are connected to them, which I just explained. My fellow American citizens, my name is Leslie Williams. Did I prove through a national radio show on 9/17/2013 that mass shootings are directly connected to neural weapons, acoustic weapons, and gang stalking crimes? The Aaron Alexis story on national radio. Is this crime capable of killing a whistleblower through directed energy weapons, infrasound, ultrasound, and remote interface by and through, but not limited to, radio telemetry interface, radiation dumps to implants to cook you alive internally, including the brains, the organs, the bones, the muscles, the tissues, and the blood? My name is Leslie Williams. I am speaking truth. Stay with this account and you will learn. Thank you.